All right, so let's talk about props. Now, I guess you would say because there's an endless amount of directions you can go into, I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing for this series, and then you can say, oh, that's a pretty cool idea, or it might spark an interest in you to do something different than what I'm doing, but maybe with a similar tone. Just like with anything in photography, there's an endless amount, and I always say do what you like, what kind of floats your boat. So I went to I'll show you a couple of clips of me going shopping, looking for props. It's kind of fun, and I feel like a little kid in a candy store when you go to an antique store and start pulling things off the wall or pulling things off the shelf. I did a sort of still life series a couple years ago. Similar to technique, not quite. I've added some things here for this master class, but I went to an old, it was the Gold King mine up in outside of Prescott, Jerome, Arizona. And you pay like $10 to get in there, and they have like, I think 100 old cars, some old barns with all sorts of things. The one shot that I have in my portfolio of Don Robertson, the older guy that owned it, he's since passed away, but I did a portrait of him in one of those garages or storage sheds with the old motor engines in the background. Then I went back and I asked permission. I actually took him a print. And so I had a speed light, a little teeny softbox, and a camera and one or two lenses, and I got permission to go into his kind of facilities back, or the barns and stuff, and I just grabbed old tools and old stuff off the shelves. And I maybe spent 2 hours doing that, and I ended up with like, I don't know, 50 different scenarios that I could work with. And I used those I kind of worked on some grids and stuff like that. So that is one thing you could do, is find a place that you can go into, maybe an old antique store where you say, hey, I'll do a trade out with you. I'll give you some prints, or I'll pay a couple, $200 an hour or something, which maybe is not, it sounds like a lot, maybe not, because if you get all your stuff done in an hour, just putting stuff into a still life scenario and shooting, you get a whole lot done. So I've spent probably total now about $300 on all these props. So I got some really amazing props. So one of the things I do is I look at building at least a triptych scenario with 3 images side by side. It's nice to have a 9-image grid. And my sister's an interior designer, and she loves those kind of things, right? And so I'll show you some of the stuff I did with that. But so one of the things I do is I look at a theme and I try to find 3 of something, right? So here's a scale. I just bought this one. This is after I sort of went and bought, I could only find 2 scales, and then I went back again and I found this one, which is really nice. I can't wait to do this. I'm going to probably do a scenario for you guys with this scale here. Here's another scale. Again, it looks like it's been sitting outside and worn out, and it's absolutely beautiful. I've used that already. That's kind of similar to that one. And then I have a scale here that has a top part here. So I'll show you this. Okay, so that's kind of cool, right? And I've used that already. You find old tools. So here's an old tool an old wrench. I photographed this. And so you do a whole series of old tools. I've actually had people that said, I love your tool series. Okay, so if you're into old tools and whatever, antique. I bought one old book, and we had one book laying around here, and I bought this one, and I put 2 books together, and then I put a pair on top of that. So old books, I don't know if well, that's kind of, there's not much on that, but you want to look kind of generic. The other thing I did was teapots. So I bought 3 teapots. Okay, there's one. This one's a little big. Okay, a little big, probably bigger than I wanted. And then here's one here too. It's kind of cool. So there's a teapot there. All right, so I got 3 teapots. Not sure if that worked 100%. I tried a few things. And by the way, as I'm talking now, I've already did some of this shooting kind of to prep myself for this master class. The reason is because I a lot of times will not know what my end result is going to be, and then I film some things, and then I go back and go, this worked, this didn't work. And so I have done some of this. We're going to still do some more coming up. But old irons. Here's an old iron. Kind of a funky looking thing, right? And I think I shot it straight on for one of my scenarios. So an old iron is kind of fun. Here's another iron. This was I like the cord actually. I tried this. It was a little bit too rusty for me. I don't know. I may try that again. But that's a great scenario. And then here's my third one. So again, what did I say? I buy things in 3s for that purpose. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so that could work. Now, let me show you. I got a couple oil cans. These are actually really easy. They're not very expensive. Most of the things here, the highest price was about $35. Where I went to the Brass Armadillo on the west side of Phoenix. So there's one oil can. Here's another. That is pretty cool. Some of them still have oil in them. This one's a little bit bigger, a little bit. So the other thing too that you'll notice that when I create a still life, I try to work in triangles, right? So you have a small one, big one. So you create this triangle. And I think I did that with one of the shots. Then I found another one here. So that was a little bit rustic too. So that's pretty cool. All right. So that was my oil can thing. I had this old bottle, and I put some flowers in that, used that. The only problem it had is some of this was a little bit too dirty on the back. It's shooting through it, and I wanted to see through it a little bit. So I had to kind of do some Photoshop on that. If I could do that again, I'd probably take something and clean that out. That's a great old bottle though. This worked out really well. I put a pair on this already, shot this once. And it's just an old little, I don't know, spatula thing. I don't know what you call it. So you walk through the antique stores and you find stuff. Here is a rolling pin. And there was quite a few rolling pins. I just picked one. I could probably do a series of rolling pins. Why? I don't know. Kitchen items. My wife likes kitchen items. Here is an old pair of boots. I haven't shot these yet. Okay. I got one pair. And then, another. That wasn't good. Whatever that fell. Here is another pair of boots. I bought pairs too. I bought all sorts of fruits and vegetables, and you'll laugh because some of the vegetables I didn't know. Artichoke or whatever. I was like, what is this? My wife was laughing at me. So there's some old boots, right? So you can go through and I don't know if these are going to work or not. I have not photographed these yet. But I'm hoping so. I can find something that gives more of a Western feel, right? Before I went out, I did a series 10 years ago, still life, with cactus. Like I would cut a little prickly pear, be very careful, and I'd lay that on my gray, and I would shoot that, and I had this sort of desert cactus theme going. I took some agave, I guess they call them leaves, agave branches, and I shot them first with them, just trimmed. Then I set them outside for 3 weeks, and they all dried up and got this really great texture to them. So I was doing like this sort of cactus still life theme, right? There's no end. What else do I do? I got an old hat over there. You could do a series on old like sports things like tennis rackets, a fly rod, old fly rod. You could do whatever, again, that gives you a theme that you can build a series and then put them up on the wall. So you might come up with some ideas I haven't even thought of yet. I'm trying to think, So what I would say is the key to this, what I'm doing here, is this is just a little bit big for me. I could actually almost make it work. So you don't want to get anything too big, because then your set has to be bigger. So that's the one thing I would say is that, sort of say, oh, this is my set about this size, and then you don't get too much bigger. My table's not that big, so I want to put it all on the table. At any rate, I hope that helps you sort of give you some ideas. So you may live in Maine. You might do an old fishing, like the fisherman boats that go out, get some of those nets and do some, wherever you live in Texas, you might try something that's a theme that you have access to in Texas. You might be in, let's see, Switzerland, and you could get some items that I couldn't get or that are rare for me to get, harder for me to get. You say, oh yeah, I got them every day there on a corner. I did flowers. Flowers are an incredible subject to photograph. Calla lilies, sunflowers. I don't have those now. I did a series, and this has been about a week ago, and then they started to get old, and I actually took them outside and I set them out in the sun so they would dry up. So I might shoot them all dried up. So there's really no end. That's the beauty of it. As I said before, keep just sort of thinking through ideas. Maybe take a little notepad and write some things down. Then go to an antique store or a flower store or an old junkyard and come up with some really cool things to photograph. Oops, got my mask here. We're looking for an old pair of cowboy boots, and we'll let you know as we get closer to the cowboy section. Okay, this guy right over here, he just walked past me with an old pair of cowboy boots, the exact kind of cowboy boots I'm looking for. Bummer, I'm too late. Just hit the jackpot on boots. Holy cow. There are more cowboy boots than I've ever seen. Old beat up ones. Look at this. And then over here, more cowboy boots. All right, if I can't find a pair of cowboy boots and an old cowboy hat, I'm in trouble. Okay, here we have some cowboy boots that I think will work perfect for what I'm looking for. They're rustic, not too bad, but the color is not too dark, so I think it'll work really good. Anyways, they're size 11, which don't fit me. But anyway, for a photograph, I think we hit the jackpot.